All right, welcome to my first ever tutorial. I am really excited about this. This tutorial is going to be showing you how to prep a photo to be laser engraved. Um, I have to preface this by saying I am not a professional. This is something that I do for fun in my free time. I have had a Glowforge for over 2 years. I've worked with an omtech um, for over a year, but I own a Glowforge, and so that is what I work with the most. I've made lots of different projects, and honestly, I just started photo engraving a few weeks ago. Um, I poured a lot of time into it. I watched a lot of tutorials myself. I read a whole bunch of the Glowforge forums, and then I just went for it. And so I'm hoping that this tutorial can be a starting point for you. Every Glowforge is different. Every image is different. Every personal preference is different. So let this be a starting point, not the end point. Please know, I am not a professional, but I am excited to share with you what I do know and what works for me and what works for my machine. Um, I'm Annie Edwards. My company is called My Little Itch. If you want to know why it's called that, go look it up on my website. Um, it's all about my kids. I'm a single mom doing my thing, busting my butt to make my life work, and I am happy to be here. I'm happy to provide this value, and I hope that everyone who's watching this can take this and make these beautiful keepsakes and sell these beautiful keepsakes to others. So let's go ahead and jump in. What you're going to want is to open the website called Pixlr. This is essentially just a Photoshop software. So if you have other Photoshop software, that's great. You can do the same thing there. You're going to pick your picture. Now you want something that is high resolution. If you have a low resolution picture, you can use it. Just know it's not going to magically look high resolution once it's engraved. So if you're making things for customers, you just have to make sure they know that. I like to send my customers a mock-up and just say, hey, just so you know, your photo wasn't super high resolution. This is what it's going to look like. Are you happy with that? Most of the time, they're very happy with it. So I am going to use a picture of me and my daughter over here. This is a high resolution photo. You just drag it into your software. You want to keep the resolution as high as you can. You do want to make sure you keep it at least as big as the final engraving will be, if not bigger, just to help the quality be better. So let's do that. All right, so it brings my picture in. Again, this is just simple Photoshop software, but it's free online for the basic. I'm going to crop my picture how I want it. I like it a little bit focused just on our faces. Again, this is all very much personal preference. What I do, and everybody does this different, but what I have found to work to prep my photos is I start here. So I go to adjustment, switch it to black and white. Now don't stop here. This could work, but it's not good enough. If you're making it specific for photo engraving, you want to go back into adjustment, click levels, and up here, this graph, you're going to change this end and this end. What you want to do is make the blacks blacker and the whites whiter. You want that contrast for engraving, and you want it to be like a little over contrast on most of the pictures. There's not a magic number here for what's going to work for every picture. It is different for every picture. And so you just want to play around with it. Again, this is where trial and error comes in. You're going to have some wasted wood, but that's just how it goes. You just try and try again. I've done it enough that I kind of can see where I am going to like it and what's going to work. You want to make sure there's still some definition. It's not just a big black blob. You want to bring out the whites, and I'm going to call that good. You could even go a little wider, but I'm going to stop there. Apply that. Now, for this picture, this is where I like it. I like the blurred background. It already was edited like that, so this one doesn't take a lot of work. You can play around with things as much as you want. Up here on some of my pictures, I like to do a vignette. It kind of gets rid of the background, focuses more on that the subject, the people, the animals, whatever it is you're engraving. I'm not going to do that. There's a gradient tool over here that's really neat that I love to use. I switch it to black and white. I'm going to show you how to do it here, but I'm not going to use it. So you just click and drag and it creates just a soft vignette in places that you want. I'm going to undo that because on this particular picture, I like the textured background. Again, it's totally personal preference, whatever you like, what kind of pictures your customers like. So I've got it here. I'm happy with this. I like it. I'm going to save this. I'm going to keep it high quality and save that. And I'm going to put this over here in my tutorial folder so that I can pull from that later. So, okay, so the next thing you want to do is open a website called ImageR. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's what I call it. So it is this online free software that is made for prepping photos to be lasered. As far as I know, it's free. There's probably like deluxe versions that you can pay for, but I don't pay for this. You're going to choose your picture from Pixlr or whatever Photoshop software you're using and drag it into ImageR. So that's going to pull up. Now down here you have all of these options of things you can do. What I tend to only use in ImageR is these two. You can crop, resize, add text. I have added text before. I prefer to add my text in Lightburn or a different design software. The adding text option in here has very limited design possibilities. So I don't use that here. So you're going to go to Material, choose whatever it is you're working on. I currently do wood, but I would love to start doing acrylic. Hit OK. Give it a minute to load. So this is what it's saying is going to work for the laser. It'll give you an automatic picture of here, this is what settings we think are best. Now this particular picture, actually, I am happy with that. I would not want to change too much there. Depending on what kind of picture you're working with, the resolution, you may have to do some adjustment to these pictures. So I'm going to show you what kinds of adjustments that I have found work the best. There is no formula. I'm sorry. I wish there was, but it is 100% trial and error. So with the gamma adjustment, on most photos, I like it at 0.8. That is my personal preference. I like how it looks. This picture, I'm going to leave at 1. I just like how it came up. The contrast, I will sometimes bring this way down. It lightens everything up a little bit. It brings things out. I'm not going to bring it that far down. It's almost too light. But that's, again, you can just play with that. This one I'm leaving at 0 because I like how it is. But most of my photos I work with, you're going to want to move that up and down, see where it works. The brightness and the contrast work with each other. And so based on whatever your contrast is, you're going to want to change your brightness. And it changes the picture. Obviously, if you want the whole thing engraved and not just the objects, you're going to want to darken it. If you want just the focus to mostly be here on the people's faces, you can brighten it. Again, I'm leaving it at 0, but play around with those. That is what I spent a lot of time learning, was what works and what doesn't. And again, it's different for every photo. So you get this to where you want it, and we're going to download that. So download the JPG. And I'm going to move this, oops, add, let's close that. I'm going to move this over to my folder. Okay, now what you're going to do is open your design software. I use Lightburn. It's just what I've found to work well. It wasn't too expensive. And again, the way I learned Lightburn was tutorials. So, but this is not a tutorial for Lightburn. I'm just showing you how to use it for the sake of getting an engraved photo. So you're going to go over to your folder, find the picture we just saved from Imageart, and you're going to drag it into your software. It's going to be big, hopefully, so you're going to want to size it down to the right size. Now this frame, this is the outline for the frame that I love to use for my pictures. I will link the file to it. It is not my file. I will link the file to it. It's an Etsy shop in the video description. So you're going to just drag the picture where you want it. Some people like to fill up the entire frame. I like to leave a little bit of room on the edges, and I'm going to resize this. Let's see. I'm going to resize this file just a bit to match my picture. So I've got my picture. I like to leave it in the middle. I'm going to make sure that it's centered. Okay, so we've got our picture. I'm going to export this so that I have it ready to bring into Glowforge. Let's see. Oh, we want that. Tutorial. There we go. Okay, so now I've got my SVG right here ready to go into Glowforge. And again, this tutorial is specific to Glowforge. That's what I have. But even between different Glowforge machines, your settings may be different. Let's see, let me get rid of this so I can start over and show you what I'm doing. So I use maple wood. I use 1/4 inch maple, and it is MDF core with maple veneers. And I get my wood locally from a wood supplier here in Utah. So if you're in Utah and you want that information, I'm happy to send it along. There's wood suppliers everywhere. I buy it in bulk 4x8 foot sheets, and then I personally cut it down to fit into my Glowforge. I know there's lots of different ways to get that, but that is how I do it. The maple wood works really well for engraving. Anything with a lighter color and not super grainy is going to work well for photo engraving, and maple is my favorite so far. So, and we're going to grab our SVG, drag it in, wait for it to load. So once it's on here, we put it where we want on the wood. Now, the settings are very important. What I do is I choose thick draft board. That is the one that works the best for me for 1/4 inch maple with MDF core. Now for the cut, I just leave it at proof grade cut. That has always worked for me. Now for the engrave, what you want to do, you can pick the photo one. Glowforge does have specific options for photo. So I'm going to go into photo. I leave my speed at 1000. The power that works the best for me is 90. This one, you want to leave it on convert to dots, and lines per inch. You can do 225 or 270 are the two that have worked best for me. I prefer 225, but they both work, and it will completely depend on your wood and your machine. So we've got those settings in, and we're ready to go. So from there, obviously you just push print, and voila, beautiful photo is made. And then you have to assemble it. I'm not going to be going over that right now. I can make another tutorial for that another day. But I will show you, I think if I brought this up right, my final product. So this is that engraving. I've got the living hinge. You can kind of see on this one, there's those triangle pieces they just glue in right there with the beautiful living hinge. It's very easy to assemble, and I love how it turned out. The writing on this one is from Imageart. It does kind of make it blend more with the picture if you are able to do it, if you have the white space on your picture to do it. If you engrave the words using design software and add them here, Like if I were to add words here and then engrave them, they do come out darker than they do on this picture. So there's different ways to add words, and it's just personal preference again. So that is my knowledge. I know that I don't have the knowledge of a professional. So I'm hoping this was helpful for somebody out there. And if it was, please let me know. Please send me a message. Please send me your beautiful product pictures. I think people are amazing and have so many talents, and I love learning from people. So if I'm doing something and you're like, wow, that's ridiculous, she needs to change that, let me know. Like, I want to learn. I want to learn more. Thank you for watching my tutorial. Head over to my website I'm going to be listing files there. I'm going to be listing my tutorials. I've got my physical products listed there if anybody wants those. Thank you for your support, and I will talk to you on my next tutorial.